Let's talk about January 6th. You can talk.
Yeah.
So we can't talk about. We can say why you can't talk about Rittenhouse, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's a pending case, and
you're a witness.
I'm a witness.
Right. So we can get to the point of this by talking about something else. January 6th, where the New York Times they called you a rioter.
They did in print. They printed it. Oh wait, there was a correction that was like a number of pages later. But you open up the New York Times magazine, and I can just imagine
frame it.
My friends' parents at home just, it's a nice Sunday. Open it.
Richie! Oh my God!
I mean, actually, you know what? I'll take a death threat over. I got called. Yashar Ali posted a thread of photos of what that guy, and I'm not going to name the photographer. You know who you are. You know what you saw, and you saw me looking for my phone. And that caption still went in there, calling me a rioter who punched a door. And they issued 2 corrections, and this is still outstanding. New York Times, you should still be scared. Because what happened there was because of the way that I looked, and because I'd just been pepper sprayed, and because I had wet hair, and I looked desperate, and they labeled me as something. And 2 minutes,
that image.
Image. And I got called a meth head like 200 times. Oof. And I don't.
You have press credentials.
Yeah, they got snatched from me that day.
You're officially reporting, and your phone falls.
I have congressional press credentials.
Right,
actually.
Yes, congressional.
So I can go in there on any given day with those credentials.
Your phone falls, and it's behind the door.
Well, I thought it was behind the door, so I was tapping on the window to ask the police. It turned out the guy, and that's the most objectionable part of this whole situation, is that there was another woman who was photographed 2 minutes later, and it's actually time coded in the piece as 2 minutes later from my photo. And she's got a MAGA hat on, and she's crying, and it says, "A woman was pepper sprayed." They called me a rioter because I'm knuckle dragging Trump supporter. I look like that. And by the way, didn't vote for Trump, but I looked to be that way. They didn't do any research, and by the way, they relied on my reporting after what happened in Kenosha. Well, so they should have known who.
Right. Let's say they didn't. You don't look like a Trump supporter. You look like a young white man. Which
I look like a Neanderthal.
They could frame it like you were some, that's the narrative.
And I look angry, and there's a broken window. And even though I was tapping on it with one finger saying, "Please, officers, can you look for my phone at your feet?" And they were all obliging, by the way. And they were looking down, and I was like, "Yeah, right there. Is it down there?" Tapping. Oh, I punched the door. Oh.
So this photojournalist, they're the one who lied.
I don't know. I don't know what the editorial process was. I don't know who it was that wrote the caption, because in some news outlets, sometimes the editors write the captions, they edit the captions. But there's a way to find out. There is a way to find out, and I can go that route. I just have to wait for my Dogecoin to go a little higher. And it's bumping right now.
Yeah,
so there's one of 2 scenarios here. This is really important to the conversation. Either the photojournalist on scene who saw what happened lied because he wanted that juicy photo. Look what I got. Oh, I got that guy at the window. Even though they knew that's not what happened, he lied. Or maybe he didn't. Maybe the editor said, "Hey, looks like a writer. I'll write that down," and did not fact check.
Yeah. But here's the thing is, I don't know when the photographer found out what that caption was, but my point is that he was there 2 minutes later when that woman was photographed, and I was gone from that space. And here's what happened. Right after I tapped on the window, every cop was looking down. There were like 10 cops on the other side of that door. And I looked so desperate that they actually obliged. And then this guy tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Yo, man, it got kicked back here." I hugged him. I said, "Thank you so much," to all the cops. I went down the line, and then I said, "Thank you to everybody." I said, "Please, everybody be safe. I'm out of here. I'm done for the day." And I'm not kidding. People were clapping. They were like, "Oh, this guy found his phone. Like, he looked so desperate and sad, and now he found it."
They were clapping.
And I hugged the guy. I said, "Can I hug you?" And he said, "Yeah." And so it was a scene. It was a true, anybody who was there saw it. And so I don't know if he was looking down at his freaking camera or whatever he was doing, but I want to find out.
Media organizations are putting out fake news, making it impossible for us to know what is really going on. And so I had a really long conversation.
That's what lawsuits are for.
Yeah, but who can afford $100,000? And then the New York Times puts a bunch of their high-powered multi-million-dollar lawyers on it and get it crushed. They say, "Oh, it was an opinion."
Doge is bumping right now.
Doge is bumping, I guess. I was talking to a friend, man. And
it's not $100,000, but it can get there very quickly.
It's crazy how many people there are that don't know what is going on in any capacity because they only absorb news passively. So they read the New York Times.
Yeah, my friend's parents.
And they said
I looked like a terrorist. And I could never, and that's like, you know what? My dad taught me to stand tall, and that's what I'm going to have to do here, because I'm not going to let those guys stomp on me like that because they think I look some way.
You look at the story, the segment we were just talking about before this one, the Gardner, Jake Gardner, he took his own life. The mob was coming after him. You see what happens when the media falsely frames things. It makes them money to get the mob all angry. And you know what, man? They don't care. They don't care that they burn the system down. I genuinely believe. I had a long conversation with Peter Boghossian, James Lindsay, mostly Peter Boghossian. They're the guys from and Helen Pluckrose. They were the crew that did the Social Squared hoax. But I was mostly talking to Peter Boghossian about how I think the media is the problem. And he said he thought it was the universities, talking about critical race theory, wokeness, the conflict and everything. And I was like, it is. I'm not saying it's not. I know critical race theory came out of universities, but it only found its path to the mainstream because of social media algorithms and media manipulation. Then you look at the curve of all of a sudden. You see all these buzzwords appearing, LexisNexis data, showing like around 2010, the instances of the word racism skyrocket like 1,000%, 10,000%. This is what opens the door for all of this woke stuff from these universities. But I will also concede as well that you had a lot of young people in universities now entering the workforce at a similar time, being indoctrinated by these ideas. But I genuinely believe the door was opened because social media and news companies, there was this nexus event where social media was destroying news companies. Venture capitalist funded firms jumped in with no care in the world for fact checking or any credibility and started pumping out rage bait garbage on Facebook. Drives everybody insane. Now what's happened is you can see this. The New York Times quickly realized in the mid-2010s, we can't compete with BuzzFeed. BuzzFeed can just say some crazy garbage and get 1 million clicks. We got to play that game too. So the New York Times gets on board. We see this when like that opinion editor guy, he was forced to resign because he published an op-ed from Tom Cotton, which was like standard procedure. But they're like, we're going to do...
That was about the Insurrection Act.
Right. Yeah. And they're like, we're going to do whatever the audience wants to make money, and we're going to pander. They hired that one woman, Sarah Jong, who was posting unrepentant racist things on Twitter for years.
But you know what? Don't you think that we're now in a divergent society where, like the Twitterati and corporate media are going in one direction and normal common sense people are going in another? And I just will say, like, the one thing I'll say about Kenosha, and I think that this is actually like a silver lining of kind of the obstacle course that I had to navigate in terms of dealing with the media after what happened, just trying to say what I saw. So what happened was I went on Tucker because he asked me on first. He was the only, right after the shooting, he said, you want to say what happened. And so I explained on that show live to his whole audience what he told me he was there for, Kyle Rittenhouse, why he was there, what he said, okay, what he told me. CNN then took that in a report, and I won't name the reporter, but he said, McGinniss supported the conservative claim that Rittenhouse acted in self-defense. And so then I emailed CNN Legal and I said, you made a misstatement about me. I relayed what the motivation of the shooter was, which he told me 15 minutes before the shooting.
You were reporting.
Yes, exactly. And so you can do one of two things. And this is America. And when you want to get something done, you just threaten to sue people.
That's right.
And I said, you can have me on to correct the record or prepare for court. And guess what? That reporter, I give him a lot of credit. He had me back on, probably because the CNN guys went to the legal department and said, you better fix this or we're going to, and that was 6 minutes long that they did. And you know what? They did a very good job of covering the event after that fact. So,
well, good for them. I worked for Fusion, which was the ABC News Univision joint venture. I was in San Jose and I was at this Trump event and there was a massive crowd running around beating people. It was insane. Many of them were Bernie supporters. I know because some of them were carrying, Bernie swag and said they were. And incidentally, that's incidental. This guy comes out and he's, cheering. He's like, yeah, Trump. And they're all screaming at him, spitting on him. And he just keeps walking. He turns the corner. Someone runs up with a heavy bag and smacks him in the head with it. He starts bleeding. And I run up. I'm filming the whole thing. He starts crossing the street. The police escort him. I chase him down. I'm running after him. I'm like, hey, can you tell me what happened? And I'm filming. So I get this very short clip where he's like, I'm just walking and someone hits me. The video gets like 1 million views in less than a day. The PR team, I believe it was PR at Fusion, immediately got hit up by Fox News. Can we have your reporter come on and tell us what happened? The higher ups messaged me like, hey, do you want to go? Like, we do PR. Do you want to go on Cavuto? And I was like, what's that? And like, Fox News. And I was like, should I? I'm like, it's Fox News. Like, and they're like, yeah, you should totally do it. And I was like, okay. So I go on Fox News and talk about what happened. I'm like, yeah, hit with the bag. We don't know what it was. And then people at the company, after seeing that I went on Fox News, called me a white supremacist. Mm-hmm. I'm like, but they told me to do it. Mm-hmm. See, the people who were running the company didn't know what they were really supporting when they hired young, psychotic, woke cult members. Mm-hmm. They were just like, it's young activists. So when in their Gen Xer minds, they were like, doing PR is normal. We don't care if he goes on Fox News. But they didn't realize that the tribalism of the younger millennials and the older Gen Z was, if you dare go on and talk to any of these people, you are them or worse. It's an interesting phenomenon.
Don't you think there's a flip side too, though, where there's like, if you're on CNN, you're a communist, or you're on MSNBC?
Absolutely not.
No?
Absolutely not. Politics only flows in one direction. If a right-wing person goes and meets up with a left-wing person, they call the left-wing person right-wing. There's no, like, a left-wing person can go to a MAGA event and they're like, he's actually right-wing. A right-wing person can go to a left-wing event and they'll be like, the event was actually right-wing. Oh. We put on an event called Ending Violence. It was a meeting of the minds or whatever, Ending Violence, Racism, and Authoritarianism. And we had Daryl Davis, the famed activist who got 200 plus Klansmen to quit the Klan. He was our headline speaker. And they claimed, because we had some right-wing people, it was a far-right event of racists. Mm-hmm. So even if you have, Daryl Davis and prominent, we had leftists, we had social justice activists. They showed up. The whole event was far right. They threatened to burn down the theater. The theater canceled on us. We had to move it to a casino in order to hold it, and we ended up losing half our capacity. Mm-hmm. And we had sold out, so we had lost a ton. And what do? You threaten to sue?
Well, I think that's the point, is you have to attack the gatekeepers, right? And the gatekeepers of, the way that people, especially after all the lockdowns, the way that people interpret reality is through the media. And so if something is being interpreted, something that's happening in reality is being interpreted incorrectly, you go to the people who put that forth. So you call me this, you call me a rioter. How did that happen? I got 2 corrections out of the New York Times. It wasn't enough because they still printed
right
the fact that I was a rioter and put corrections behind it. Want to know why? Because it's more expensive to reprint.
Right.
And my reputation was worth, I don't know, what was it worth? I darn well would like to find out, because that was the sole reason why they didn't reprint the actual caption in print.
You're going to sue them?
I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to get to the bottom of it.
I think you should talk to Veritas.
No, I don't think I should at all.
No?
Because they're partisan actors in my mind.
All right, right.
And I want to approach this from the direction of truth and not from some kind of ideological side. And I'm not like, take down the New York Slimes because they're all commies or whatever. I think
Veritas wouldn't say that.
No,
but I understand their views as partisan.
I'm being hyperbolic, but they're viewed as a certain thing by the greater media. And I'd rather come at it as just an individual who's trying to stand tall for myself. And
you got to
know what? If whatever, maybe I'm young enough to enter financial ruin for my for the sake of the truth.
I got to be honest. I think they'd settle with you.
Well, I don't care. What I want them to know is that I'm willing to go the distance in order to get to the bottom of what happened. And so if they want to settle to just set that aside, I don't know if I'm interested in that.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you want exclusive members-only content, segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.